We're going to be looking at the young man of Nain and how Jesus showed compassion to a widow. And if you're not sure what a widow is, that's somebody who's lost their husband um, to death. So this woman, her husband died, and she's left now with just her son. Why did Jesus feel sad for a widow from Nain? We start in Luke chapter 7 verse 11. Soon afterward, Jesus went to a town called Nain, and his disciples and a large crowd went along with him. And we're going to see that happen often where Jesus is with his disciples, but they're never usually alone. It's usually Jesus, his disciples, and a very large crowd listening to what Jesus has to say. And they're in the town of Nain. We see that in verse 12. As he approached the town gate, a dead person was being carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. So this woman now is left with nobody because her husband had died and now her only son had died. She was a widow, and a large crowd from the town was with her. We see that in verse 13, Jesus' feelings for her. When the Lord saw her, his heart went out to her, and he said, "Don't cry." So we see now that Jesus felt sad for a widow because her only son had died. And that's a feeling that if you've ever lost somebody in your life, you know that that's a really hard feeling to have. And Jesus felt bad for that woman that she had lost the only thing she had left. So this map's a little bit small, but we see that Jesus is going to be all throughout this area. And then he's traveling always from like Judea to Samaria and in Galilee. And then we see Nain is just inside of Galilee. So it'd be right around here. So it's a super small town near Galilee. How did Jesus help her? We see in Luke 7, verse 14. Then he went up and touched the bier they were carrying him on. And that would just be sort of like a coffin, would be what they were carrying him on. And the bearers stood still. He said, "Young man, I say to you, get up." So this man was being carried out on like a coffin, and Jesus went up to him, this dead man, and said, "Young man, I say to you, get up." The dead man sat up and began to talk, and Jesus gave him back to his mother. So the man, even though he was dead, listened to Jesus, and Jesus raised the widow's son to life. So you see him being carried off. Jesus touched him, told him to get up, and he did. What did the people say? We see the response in verse 16. They were all filled with awe and praised God. "A great prophet has appeared among us," they said. "God has come to help his people." So the people praised Jesus for what he had done for this man. And then we see in verse 17, this news about Jesus spread throughout Judea and the surrounding country. So people didn't just stay quiet about this. They went and told others what they had seen. The people praised God and said that God had come to help his people. Jesus raised a widow's son from the dead. Our worksheet for today, we're going to do the first part together, and then you're going to do the second part on your own. So looking at part 1, where did Jesus visit? And we know that he went to Nain, and this is going to ask you to write out the town of Nain. And this is going to be important as we get down to the second part of the worksheet. All right, so who went with Jesus? So the people that normally went with Jesus were his disciples, but then there was also a large crowd with them. So his disciples and a large crowd. Make sure that you're spelling this correctly because it's going to be very important for the lower part. All right, what was happening there? So at Nain, we know that there was a person who was dead. So a dead person, they were actually being carried out. Who was in the coffin? It was the only son of his mother. All right, and then going on, it says, what caused the people to praise God? And we know that in the end it was because Jesus raised the widow's son to life. And then the bottom part is going to be all on you guys. So what you're going to be doing is looking at the letter or number. So I see that it's number 20. That's going to be a J. And I know that all of the 20s are going to be a J. So I can go through and I can write anytime I see a 20, J. 20. Right now I don't see any other ones. Then I can look at 21. I know it's going to be a T. Anytime I see a 21, it's going to be a T. So as you're filling that out, you can write those in, and then you're going to have this entire second part complete.